Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa.
Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 8, Offenses to be Avoided. The offenses against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. First, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Sometimes the atheistic class of men take it that any demigod is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. But one who is a devotee knows that no demigod, however great he may be, is independently as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if someone thinks that he can chant Kali, Kali or Durga, Durga, and it is the same as Hare Krishna, that is the greatest offense. Third, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Sixth, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. Because by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from all kinds of sinful reactions. It should not be taken that one may continue to act sinfully and after that chant Hare Krishna to neutralize his sins. Such a dangerous mentality is very offensive and should be avoided. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities. Karma Kanda. 9th, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Anyone can take part in chanting the holy name of the Lord, but in the beginning one should not be instructed about the transcendental potency of the Lord. Those who are too sinful cannot appreciate the transcendental glories of the Lord, and therefore it is better not to instruct them in this matter. 10th, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. It's Sunday, May 10th, and welcome everyone to the reading of the Delhi edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Hare Krishna movement. For those of you listening for the first time on YouTube or on Facebook, or tuning in for the first time, the class is being conducted by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa, a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He saw Srila Prabhupada as a teenager and soon joined the Hare Krishna movement in the 1960s. He received first initiation from Srila Prabhupada in August 1969. He was instrumental in funding the construction of 3 major temples, the Krishna Balaram Temple in Vrindavan, India, the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir in Mayapur, near Calcutta, West Bengal in India, and the Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Temple in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh in India. He also traveled extensively throughout South India with Guru Kripa Swami in 1972 and 1973, and in 1975 with Achyutananda Swami. He was also made in charge of the installation of the deities in the Hyderabad temple in 1976 and the temple in Fiji in 1977. In late 1976, Srila Prabhupada selected him to manage the Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul in Vrindavan. Now, without further delay, I would like to turn the program over to him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, very much for this introduction. And thank you to that beautiful shirt with the Harinam on it that you're wearing. It looks very good. My apologies for my voice. I got a very bad cold coming back from Edison, New Jersey last Monday. Still haven't been able to completely clear it up. I'll do the best I can. Today, we are celebrating a very, very special day. We are celebrating the disappearance day of Ramananda Roy. As most Gaudiya Vaishnava practitioners know, Ramananda Roy was one of the foremost confidential associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travels in South India, around the year 1510, he stopped in a place called Kovur near the Godavari River, now in Andhra Pradesh. At that particular time, he was the governor of Madras, a southern state. And he had been advised by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya before leaving for his tour of South India to stop and meet Ramananda Roy. And the discussions between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Ramananda Roy form a very large chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What we will do today is read some selected portions from Srila Prabhupada. Very nice, thank you for that. Srila Prabhupada summarizes the discussions between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. The Roy then suggested sincere association of self-realized souls and to hear submissively the transcendental message of the pastimes of the personality of Godhead from any worldly position. This suggestion of Sri Ramananda Roy was welcomed by the Lord. The only thing one has to do is to hear from self-realized soul with a routine program. Hare Krishna, and all glories to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. The following is a summary of the discussions between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, where they discuss transcendental knowledge and how to develop love of Godhead. Ramananda Roy lists out many formulas, but most of them were rejected by the Lord. And the final suggestion of association of self-realized souls was approved by the Lord. This is also one kind of a solution for saving the downfall of the transcendental Hare Krishna movement started by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's go further down. Srila Prabhupada. The Lord then proceeded towards South India for some time and converted everyone he met on the way to become a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna. Such devotees also converted many others to the cult of devotional service or Bhagavad Dharma of the Lord. And thus he reached on the bank of the Godavari, where he met Srila Ramananda Roy, the governor of Madras, on behalf of Maharaj Prataprudra, the king of Orissa. His talks with Ramananda Roy is very much important in the matter of higher realization of transcendental knowledge, and the conversation forms itself a small booklet. We shall, however, try to give herewith a gist of the conversation as follows. Sri Ramananda Roy was a self-realized soul although outwardly he belongs to a caste lower than the Brahmin in social convention. He was neither in renounced order of life, and besides that, he was a high government servant in the state. Still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as one of the liberated soul on the strength of high order of realization of transcendental knowledge. Similarly, the Lord appointed Srila Haridas Thakur, a veteran devotee of the Lord, hailing from the Mohammedan family. And there are many other great devotees of the Lord who hailed from different communities, sects, and castes of the dense social status of life. But the Lord's only criterion was to see the standard of devotional service of the particular person. He was not concerned with the outward dress of a man, but he was concerned only with the inner soul in its activities. Therefore, the whole missionary activities of the Lord are to be understood as standing on the spiritual plane, and as such, the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the cult of Bhagavad Dharma has nothing to do with mundane affairs of sociology, politics, economic development, or any such spheres of life. Srimad Bhagavatam is purely transcendental urge of the soul. When he met Sri Ramananda Roy on the bank of the Godavari, the conversation began with the subject matter of Varnashram Dharma, followed by the Hindus. Srila Ramananda Roy said that by following the principle of Varnashram Dharma, or the system of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, it should be followed by everyone in order to realize transcendence. In the opinion of the Lord, the system of Varnashram Dharma is superficial only, and it has very little to do with the highest realization of spiritual values. Because the highest perfection of life is to get detached from the material attachment and proportionally realize the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The personality of Godhead recognizes a living being who is progressing in that line. Devotional service is therefore the culmination of the culture of all knowledge. When Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared for the deliverance of all fallen souls, he advised for clear-cut deliverance of all living entities as follows. The Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead, from whom all living entities have emanated, must be worshipped by all by their respective engagements, because everything that we see is also the expansion of his energy only. That is the way of real perfection and is approved by all bona fide acharyas, past and present. The system of Varnashram is more or less based on the principles of moral and ethical rules. There is very little realization of the transcendence as such. The Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, rejected it as superficial and asked Ramananda Roy to go further up. Sri Ramananda Roy then suggested renunciation of the fruitive actions unto the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita advises in this connection as follows: whatever you do, whatever you eat, and whatever you give, as well as whatever you may perform in penance, all must be offered to me alone. This dedication on part of the worder suggests the personality of God at a step higher than the impersonal conception of the Varnashram system. But still, the relation of the living being and the Lord is not distinct in that way. The Lord therefore rejected this proposition and asked Ramananda Roy to go further on. Roy then suggested renunciation of the Varnashram Dharma and acceptance of devotional service. The Lord did not approve of this suggestion also for the reason that all of a sudden one may not renounce his position and that will not bring in the desired result. It was further suggested by Roy that attainment of spiritual realization, freed from the material conception of life, is the topmost achievement by a living being. The Lord rejected this suggestion also, because on the plea of such spiritual realization, many havoc may be done by the unscrupulous persons, and therefore, all of a sudden, this is not possible. The Roy then suggested sincere association of self-realized souls and to hear submissively the transcendental message of the pastimes of the personality of Godhead from any worldly position. This suggestion of Sri Ramananda Roy was welcomed by the Lord. This suggestion was made following the footprints of Brahmaji, who said that the personality of Godhead is known as Ajita, or the one who cannot be conquered or approached by anyone. But such Ajita also becomes Jita, conquered by one method, which is very simple and easy. The simple method is that one has to give up the arrogant attitude of declaring oneself as God himself. One must be very meek and submissive and try to live peacefully by lending the ear to the speeches of the transcendently self-realized soul who speaks on the message of Bhagavad Dharma, or the religion of glorifying the Supreme Lord and his devotees. To glorify a great merit is a natural instinct for living being, but artificially they have learned not to glorify the Lord. Perfection of life is attained simply by glorifying the Lord in association of self-realized devotee of the Lord. Self-realized devotee is he who surrenders unto the Lord fully without any further attachment from material prosperity. Material prosperity and sense enjoyment and advancement of learning thereof are all activities of ignorance in the human society. Peace and friendship are impossible propositions in the light of a detached society from the association of God and his devotees. It is imperative, therefore, that one should sincerely seek for the association of pure devotees and hear them patiently by submissive oral reception from any position of life. The position of a person in the higher or lower status of life does not hamper in the path of self-realization. The only thing one has to do is to hear from the self-realized soul with a routine program. And the speaker may deliver lectures from the standard of Vedic literatures, following the footprints of the bygone Acharya who realized the absolute truth. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended this simple method of self-realization, generally known as Bhagavat Dharma. Srimad Bhagavatam is the perfect guide for this purpose. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Volume 1, Introduction, Delhi, 1962 edition. Next, we will read a few selected verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ita baliyapan krita gilo eka gahila, preme prabhu swahaste tanana mukiyat chadila. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Saying this, Ramananda Rai began to sing a song he had composed, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of the ecstasy of love of Godhead, immediately covered Ramananda's mouth with his own hand. Purport. The topics that are about to be discussed between Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy cannot be understood by a materialistic poet, nor by intelligence or material perception. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura states that the spiritual mellow can be realized only when one is situated on the transcendental platform beyond the material stage of goodness. That platform is called Vishuddha Sattva, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. Realization of the Vishuddha Sattva is beyond the pale of the material world and is not perceived by bodily senses or mental speculation. Our identification with the gross body and subtle mind is different from spiritual understanding. Since the intelligence and mind are material, the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are beyond their perception. Sarvopadivi nirmuktam tatparatvina nirmalam. When we are free from all material designations, and our senses are completely purified by the bhakti process, we can understand the sense activities of the absolute truth. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyati. The spiritual senses are beyond the material senses. A materialist can think only of the negation of material variety. He cannot understand spiritual variety. He thinks that spiritual variety simply contradicts material variety and is a negation or void. But such conceptions cannot even reach the precincts of spiritual realization. The wonderful activities of the gross body and subtle mind are always imperfect. They are below the degree of spiritual understanding and are ephemeral. The spiritual mellow is eternally wonderful and is described as Purna, Shuddha, Nityamukta, that is complete, perfectly pure, and eternally liberated from all material conceptions. When we are unable to fulfill our material desires, there is certainly sorrow and confusion. This may be described as vivarta. But in spiritual life, there is no sorrow, inebriety, or imperfection. Srila Ramananda Raya was expert in realizing the spiritual activities of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. And Ramananda's spiritual experience was placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he inquired whether the Lord approved his realization of spiritual truth. There are 3 books prominent in this connection. One was written by Bhakta-das Baula and is called Vivarta Vilasa. Another was compiled by Jagadananda Pandit and is called Prema Vivarta. Sri Ramananda Roy's book is called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. The Vivarta Vilas by Bhakta-das Baula is completely different from the other 2 books. Sometimes a university student or professor tries to study these transcendental literary works and attempts to put forth a critical analysis from the mundane view with an end to receiving degrees like a PhD. Such realization is certainly different from that of Ramananda Roy. If one actually wants to take a PhD degree from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be approved by Ramananda Roy, he must first become free from all material designations. Sarvopadivi nirmuktam tatparatvina nirmalam. A person who identifies with his material body cannot understand these talks between Sri Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Man-made religious scriptures and transcendental philosophical talks are quite different. Indeed, there is a gulf of difference between the two. This subject matter has been very diligently described by Srimad Madhvacharya. Since material philosophers are situated in the material conception of life, they're unable to realize the spiritual prema vilasa vivarta. They cannot accommodate an elephant upon a dish. Similarly, mundane speculators cannot capture the spiritual elephant within their limited conception. It is just like a frog trying to measure the Atlantic Ocean by imagining it so many times larger than his well. Materialistic philosophers and sahajiyas cannot understand the talks between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concerning the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. The only tendency of the impersonalists or the Prakrita Sahajiyas is to face the platform of impersonalism. They cannot understand spiritual variegatedness. Consequently, when Ramananda Raya attempted to sing his own verses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped him by covering his mouth with his own hand. The foregoing was from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 8, 193. Next, we have another verse regarding Ramananda Roy. Mora mukhe bhakta tumi tume aushrota atyantara shuna sadanera kata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, you are speaking through my mouth, and at the same time, you are listening. This is very mysterious. Anyway, kindly explain the explanation by which the goal can be attained. This is a very important purport by Srila Prabhupada. All of his purports are very important, but this verse particularly here is very important. Srila Sanatana Goswami has advised us to hear about Krishna from a Vaishnava. He has explicitly forbidden us to hear from an Avaishnava. Avaishnava mukudgirnam putam hari katam ritam shravanam nevakartavyam sarpochistam yatapayaha. Thus quoting from Padma Purana, Srila Sanatana Goswami warns that one should not hear anything about Krishna from an Avaishnava, however great a Monday scholar he may be. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by an Avaishnava are also poisonous. However, because a Vaishnava is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his talks are spiritually potent. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10, the Supreme Lord says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhihogam tam yanamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to worshiping me with love, I gave the understanding by which they can come to me. When a pure Vaishnava speaks, he speaks perfectly. How is this? His speech is managed by Krishna himself within the heart. Srila Ramananda Raya accepts this benediction from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he admits that whatever he was speaking was not derived from his own intelligence. Rather, everything was coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto mattasmritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarverahameva vidyo vedanta krid veda videva chaham. Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. All intelligence emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul within the heart of everyone. Non-devotees want to ask the Supreme Lord for sense gratification. Therefore, non-devotees come under the influence of Maya, the illusory energy. A devotee, however, is directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes under the influence of Yoga Maya. Consequently, there is a gulf of difference between statements made by a devotee and those made by a non-devotee. This is from Srila Prabhupada, Madhya Lila, chapter 8, text 200. We will read another verse. Saki vinay lilaya nira nahi gati, Saki bhave yetanare karya nugati, Radha Krishna kunja seva sadya sepai, Se sadya paitayar nalila nahika upai. Without the help of the gopis, one cannot enter into these pastimes. Only he who worships the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis, following in their footsteps, can engage in the service of Sri Radha Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavana. Only then can one understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. There is no other procedure for understanding. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This means the means for returning home, for going back to Godhead, is devotional service, but everyone has a different taste in the Lord's service. One may be inclined to serve the Lord. One may be inclined to serve the Lord in servitude, dasya rasa, fraternity, sakya rasa, or paternal love, vatsalya rasa, but none of these can enable one to enter into the service of the Lord in conjugal love. To attain such service, one has to follow in the footsteps of the gopis in the ecstasy of Sakhi Baba. Then only can one understand the transcendental mellow of conjugal love. In the Ujjvala Nilamani, Srila Rupa Goswami advised, Prema Lila Viharanam Samyak Vistarita Sakhi Vishrambaratna Piti Cha. One who expands the conjugal love of Krishna and his enjoyment amongst the gopis is called a Sakhi. Such a person is a confidential gopi in the conjugal affairs. Such assistants are like jewels in the form of Krishna's confidence. The actual business of the Sakhis is described thus in Ujjvala Nilamani. Mita prema gunut kirti stayora sakti karita abhisaro dravyo reva sakhya Krishna samarpanam narmasvasana nipatyam hridayodghatapatavam chidrasamvritiretasyaha patyadeh paribhanchana shiksha sangananam kale sevanam vyajanadibihi tayordva yorupalambaha sandesha prishanam tata nayika pranasam raksha prayatna dyasaki kriyaha. In the conjugal pastimes of Krishna, Krishna is the hero, Nayaka, and Radhika is the heroine, Nayika. The first business of the gopis, is to chant the glories of both the hero and the heroine. Their second business is to gradually create a situation in which the hero may be attracted to the heroine and vice versa. Their third business is to induce both of them to approach each another. Their fourth business is to surrender unto Krishna. The fifth is to create a jovial atmosphere. The sixth is to give them assurance to enjoy their pastimes. The seventh is to dress and decorate both hero and heroine. The eighth to show expertise in expressing their desires. The ninth to conceal the faults of the heroine. The 10th to cheat their respective husbands and relatives. The 11th to educate. The 12th to enable both hero and heroine to meet at the proper time. The 13th to fend both hero and heroine. And the 14th to sometimes reproach the hero and heroine. The 15th to set conversations in motion, and the 16th to protect the heroine by various means. Some material sahajiyas who cannot actually understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna manufacture their own lifestyles without referring to authority. Such sahajiyas are called Sakhi Beki, and sometimes they are called Gora Nagari. They believe that the material body, which is fit to be eaten by jackals and dogs, is enjoyable for Krishna. Consequently, they artificially decorate the material body to attract Krishna, thinking themselves Sakhis. But Krishna is never attracted by the artificial grooming of the material body. As far as Srimati Radharani and her gopis are concerned, their bodies, homes, dresses, ornaments, endeavors, and activities are all spiritual. All of these are meant to satisfy, the screen, please, the spiritual senses of Krishna. Indeed, they are so pleasing and endearing to Krishna that he is subjugated by the influence of Srimati Radharani and her friends. They have nothing to do with anything mundane within the 14 planetary systems of the universe. Although Krishna is attractive to everyone, he is nonetheless attracted by the gopis and Srimati Radharani. One should not be misled by mental concoctions, supposing his material body to be perfect and deeming oneself a Saki. This is something like Ahangara Upasana, that is, a Mayavadi's worship of his own body as the supreme. Srila Jiva Goswami has cautioned mundaners to abstain from such conceptions. He also warns that thinking oneself one of the associates of the Supreme without following in the footsteps of the gopis is as offensive as thinking oneself the Supreme. Such thinking is an aparada. One has to practice living in Vrindavana by hearing about the talks of the gopis with Krishna. However, one should not consider himself a gopi, for this is offensive. The foregoing was from the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 8, text 204, 205. I just want to make a comment here and a point that Srila Prabhupada in his books, as we've seen from this purport, goes into considerable depth in detail about all aspects of spiritual life, sadhana bhakti, prema bhakti, all the highest form of bhakti. This description we just read from the Ujjval Nilamani and Srila Prabhupada's translation is a description like this. This is very detailed about all the various stages of assisting of the transcendental relationship between Krishna and Radharani. Now, there are certain persons who, after the departure of Srila Prabhupada, after 1977, they started to preach that Srila Prabhupada just taught the basic fundamentals and they were going to give the higher teachings, the special Rasika teachings. But when you read purpose like this, we can understand the falsity of such statements. Because Srila Prabhupada describes everything. Sadhana bhakti, prema bhakti, bhava bhakti, everything is given in his books. Simply, we have to hear from the self-realized source, Srila Prabhupada. I just wondered if our good friend Ishan Prabhu is available to make a few comments. Is he here? Ishan Prabhu?
I am here.
Yes, he is. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare
Give us
Krishna.
your bhashya.
We're talking about Ramananda Roy.
Yes,
May I?
of course.
I've been thinking about it a lot after receiving your different invitations and literature on the subject. When the spiritual master, even Lord Chaitanya, accepts a spiritual master, the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya, to show by example, of course, God does not need a spiritual master, but he's showing us how we should behave. He is the disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is the first one to introduce this conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. And in this way, from Madhavendra Puri through Ishwara Puri, Lord Chaitanya then begins to introduce something that has never been offered by any other avatar, even Krishna himself. But what I would like to focus on, the relationship between Madhavendra Puri and Ishwara Puri. That Madhavendra Puri was in his last days before his departure, and he's feeling very intense feelings in the mood of Srimati Radharani's love in separation from Krishna. He's chanting this verse. And so then, what was the role of Ishwara Puri? He's the disciple. But what would he do as the disciple? As the disciple, he's helping Madhavendra Puri to be Krishna conscious. He's quoting verses from Vedas, from all of the more the texts that deal with from the previous great writers, great acharyas on these love affairs to intensify and to facilitate that Madhavendra Puri should be more situated in his love for Krishna, even in his last moments. Then we have Ramananda Roy. Do you know that Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, who they really are, in the Vrindavan pastimes, that we read Chaitanya, Hey Radhe Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, Hey Nanda Shunokuta. Lalita is Swarup Damodar. He is Lalita in the spiritual world, and Ramananda Roy is Vishaka, very close associates of Radha and Krishna, the principal gopis who are they're supporting Srimati Radharani in every way in her dealings with Krishna. And what are they doing? Lord Chaitanya, in the daytime he's doing kirtan, and at night he's feeling in the mood of Srimati Radharani. This feeling of separation that Krishna has gone to Mathura, and now I'm left alone. What should I do? How will I maintain even my life in separation? Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, they are chanting the beautiful songs composed by the previous acharyas and great Vaishnava poets to enhance the mood of Lord Chaitanya in feeling his love for Krishna. This is now, how can we learn from this? Here we have two examples of great pure devotees who are learning from their spiritual masters. They're learning from but what is their role? They're helping their superiors to feel Krishna consciousness. What can we learn from this? That Ramananda Roy is enhancing the Krishna consciousness of Lord Chaitanya. We can learn that when we chant Hare Krishna, it should be for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. It is one thing that one is receiving, okay, you go and you have a job, he gives you a list of things to do, you go and you do them, and you're in service, that's obedience. But service with love is something different. Therefore, when we're chanting, he has given us this instruction to chant Hare Krishna. We should be chanting for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure. How can we chant for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure? Chapter 18, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, quote, the process is that the pure devotee chants the mantra. And if the disciple begins to chant with equal feeling, this becomes the worship of the holy name. And this is done for the pleasure of our spiritual master. Now, how do we chant for the pleasure of the spiritual? Bhaktivedanta Thakur writes in his prayer, Gurudev, I offer you all respect, for thus I may have the energy by which I can understand your devotional mood to Krishna. Then I can chant the holy name with feelings from my heart, and on that way all of my sinful propensities will be eliminated. Similarly, we're saying from him, Prema Bhakti Yaha Hoite Avidya Vinashrayate. From him, this feeling, this love of Krishna emanates, if we can catch it and begin to engage in Krishna consciousness with this same feeling. Avidya, then our sinful propensities are defeated. So it's the same theme. Therefore, when we chant Shri Harinam Chintamani Haridas Thakur, the Acharya of the Holy Name says, when you chant the mantra, you should be meditating too on your spiritual master and Krishna. This is the way to chant. So we're chanting, meditating on our spiritual master. He is giving us this love feeling of devotion to Krishna, and we are giving back to him. We're giving back to him what he's given to us. And this is the essence of what it means: inquiry, submission, and service. Inquiry is, what is this love of Krishna? Look in chapter 12 of TLC, that the student should ask the spiritual master, what is this love of Krishna? This is the meaning of submission. Inquiry, that is the inquiry. Submission means that I have my heart is open enough that I can now understand the devotion of my spiritual master for Krishna. And service means that's what means anuga, following in the footsteps, but that is done for the pleasure of our spiritual master. When Srila Prabhupada says, when the spiritual master sees, 434 Bhagavad Gita, last sentence, when the spiritual master sees that the student is submissive in this way and always ready to render the service, the reciprocation of inquiry and knowledge becomes perfect. So this is a living relation. We want to learn how to engage in devotional service under the guidance of our spiritual master, always in the association of our spiritual master. This is the meaning of these words, an anuga, following in the footsteps of our, and then giving back to him what he's given to us. This is what Ramananda Raya is doing with Lord Chaitanya. That he is trying to chant in such a nice way that Lord Chaitanya will have spiritual pleasure. That is the relationship between us and our spiritual master. And when he sees that we are doing in this way, then he blesses us with all understanding. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. I just want to point out one point that you made about when you mentioned that in the Harinam Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur recommends that when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, he should meditate on his spiritual master and Krishna. Well, this is exactly the same point that Srila Prabhupada made when he was once asked by a devotee, a prominent member of ISKCON, what is the most important verse that you taught? And Prabhupada immediately answered, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasyete Kachita Yartaha Prakashanti Mahatmanaha. To those who have firm faith both in the spiritual master and Krishna, for them all the meaning of Vedic ritual is revealed. Prakashanti Mahatmanaha. Because the process of chanting is also a process of practice and revelation. It's like you quote all these verses from the Sri Guru Charana Padma. It's very important we understand what we're singing. Prabhupada says, Janme, Janme Prabhu, you're my Lord, birth after birth. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakasya, from you, this transcendental, this Divya Gyan, this transcendental knowledge emanates. Sometimes there's a misconception that initiation means to throw some ghee into the fire and banana into the fire. Well, it's part of the process. It's part of the details, the externals, the formalities. But the real initiation is to connect with that love that the Guru is giving us, to connect with that Divyam Jnanam, with that transcendental knowledge that he's given us every day. That's where the question, we have to open our heart. How do we do that? We have to submissively hear. And this is the part that Prabhupada used to often tell people, whenever people ask, can you show me God? Do you see God? Prabhupada would reply, well, do you have the eyes to see? This is a very important point, just like in the Bhagavatam in the first canto. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada mentions, one has to understand a sadhu not by seeing, but by hearing. What are we learning from Ramananda Roy? So many times here, Ramananda Roy quoted that verse from the Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Lord Brahma and Lord Krishna, where a verse has been given that the word Ajita is mentioned, the unconquerable. Krishna can be conquered by anyone, but the Ajita becomes Jita, conquered. How? Sthanistita hasruti gatantanuvan nayobia, manobia. They remain in whatever position you may be, and submissively hear the Bhagavatam from a self-realized devotee, from one who has no more desire for name, fame, power, prestige, aggrandizement, profit, adoration, distance, completely pure. Some people have the misconception, well, Prabhupada is not here. How can we associate with him? You can associate by hearing. That's what he recommended. Now, the point is, we have to open our hearts. We have to mold our life. We have to open our minds to hear submissively from the Acharya, then everything will be revealed. And this is a very important point. Very important point. I had a very interesting experience last weekend. As you know, we had a program in Edison, New Jersey, at the house of one of the Prabhus, Chaitanya Prabhu. His house has been made into a temple, an ashram. Beautiful life-size Radha Krishna deity, Gaurnitai, Sitaram deities, very effulgent. So they have a very large room downstairs where we had a fire sacrifice. There was a marriage ceremony where a devotee, Revati Prabhu, was initiated, and he was also married on that day. And his good wife, Bhaktin Maria, participated in the Kirtan, the program. Then afterwards, she expressed that she was very impressed with the level of devotion of all the ladies and participants, because many other devotees were initiated, first initiation, second initiation. All of them made that commitment to Prabhupada. All of them are already involved in practicing Krishna consciousness, developing the taste for hearing, asking Krishna for a taste for hearing. As all of you know, when Prabhupada came to New York in 1966, one of the first publications he ever did was on chanting the Mahamantra. And it's quite amazing when you read this, and he's explaining that one does not have to understand the language. One does not have to study Sanskrit. Simply one has to hear the mantra. As Prabhupada is explaining the mantra, he makes it very easy. Prabhupada says, even a child can take part in it. Even a dog can take part in it. We had personal experience in South India one time in Mangalore. Mangalore is south of Udupi along the west coast of India. We had a Hare Krishna Sankirtan on the streets. And some devotees were distributing books. And all of a sudden, one of the devotees tapped my shoulder and says, look, there was a dog following the Kirtan party, and he's standing up on his two legs trying to chant. Now, he's not a human. He can't understand Bhagavad Gita, but some way or other, that reminded me of Prabhupada's instruction that even a dog can take part in it. So everyone can take part in the Mahamantra, regardless of one's position. Men, women, American, Russian, Mongolian, Polish, French, it doesn't matter what background, whether one is highly intelligent or not intelligent, whether one is rich or one is poor, whether one is fortunate or unfortunate. There is no qualification for this chanting. Simply one has to hear it from the right source of a pure devotee. Yes, Prabhu, please make a comment.
That is exactly what Srila Prabhupada writes, says in that first dissertation that you were talking about. As far as possible, the chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord, so that immediate effect can be achieved. So what is that immediate effect? The immediate effect is that only a pure devotee chants with feelings of love for Krishna. If we can hear, that is submissive, again, hearing, and begin to imbibe the taste of that devotion, chanting ourselves, following in his footsteps, that becomes the worship of the transcendental name. And then the name spreads his glories within the heart of such a disciple. Therefore, this is our practice of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada Nuga, following the emotional, spiritual, transcendental mood of devotion of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, following this within our heart, cultivating this in our own devotional practices. This is the process. We have to understand, we have to begin to think like this and contemplate like this and begin to apply like this. Then we will begin to understand the nectar of the name. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Let us proceed with a Bhagavatam reading. Prabhu, Ram Raghava Prabhu, you can do the next part of the program, please.
Okay.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya
Jayom Vishnupada Paramam Saparibrajagacharya Shtottara Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jayom Vishnupada Paramam Saparibrajagacharya Shtottara Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sri Kao Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Girava Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Dwarka Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Sri Ramananda Roy Tiro Bhakti Ki Jai, Hari Nama Samkirtana Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Hare Krishna.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam, Narayanam namaskrityam, Naram cheva narottamam, Naram cheva narottamam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Tato jayam mudirayat, Tato jayam mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supremmost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. We will go forward with our 2 verses for today. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 5. Sadayitva jata satroho svamrajam kitaveritam gatayitva satorajnyaha kachasparsha kshatayushaha sadayitva, having executed ajata shatroho, of the one who has no enemy, svarajyam, own kingdom, kitaber, by the cleverish Duryodhana and party, haritam, usurped, gatayitva, having killed, asato, the unscrupulous, rajna, of the queens, kachas, bunch of hair, sparsha, roughly handled, hata, decreased of, ayushaha, by the duration of life. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The cleverish Duryodhana and party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhisthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died on account of their duration of life being decreased for touching the bunch of hair of Queen Draupadi. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmin, the cow, the women, the children, and the old men all were properly given protection. 1. Protection of the Brahmin means to maintain the institution of Varna and Ashrama of the most scientific culture for attainment of successful goal of life. 2. The protection of cows means to get the miraculous form of food, in other words, milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of brain for understanding higher aims of life. 3. Protection of women means to maintain the chastity of society, by which we can get good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. 4. Protection of children means to give the human form of life best chance for the matter of preparing for the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadan Samskara, the beginning of pure life. 5. Protection of old men means to give them a chance to prepare themselves for a better life after death. The complete outlook is based on the factors of successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. Killing of these innocent creatures were totally forbidden, because even by insulting them, one loses one's durations of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women as a class become unchaste for want of proper protection, they are unwanted children of the society, and they're called Varna Samkara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the formation of duration of life. Dushasana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. Text number 6. Yajayitva swamedestam tribiruttama kalpakai tadyashaha pavanam dikshu shatamanyor ivatanot jayayitva, by performing ashvamedaihi, yajna, in which a horse is sacrificed, tam, him, King Yudhishthira. Tribir, 3. Uttama, best, kalpakai, supplied with proper ingredients and performed by able priests. Tad, that. Yashaha, fame. Pavana, virtuous. Dikshu, all directions. Shatamanyor, like the one who performed 100 such sacrifices. Iva, like. Atonat, perform. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Ashwamedha Yajnas, horse sacrifices, to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhishthira, and thus made his virtuous flame glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who performed such 100 sacrifices. Purport by His Divine Grace. This is something like the preface to the performances of Ashwamedha Yajna by Maharaj Yudhishthira. The comparison of Maharaj Yudhishthira with the King of Heaven is significant. The King of Heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Maharaj Yudhishthira in opulence, and still the fame of Maharaj Yudhishthira was not less than him. The reason is that Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord, and by his grace only, he was at par with the King of Heaven. Even though King Yudhishthira performed only 3 yajnas, whereas the King of Heaven performed 100 times more than him. That is the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone, Further down, please. The Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he is always in touch with the all-great. The sun rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which is dark always. This is not due to the partiality of the sun, but it is due to the partial receptive power of the place for the sun's rays. Similarly, those who are 100% devotee of the Lord, they get full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Miritam Yena Tasme Shigurave Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Shugurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharakara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataha Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Saravata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Sat Karomi Svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. We had a very interesting experience last week. Before we had the fire sacrifice, there was a program at the house of a Vaishnavi named Ujjval Mataji. And the program was at a house of a Mataji named Haripran Mataji, who is an initiated disciple of His Divine Grace. And one Mataji named Ujjval Mataji, she brought a deity of Prabhupada and she requested that I install it. I said, well, this was like a last minute thing. So they brought this deity of Prabhupada. It's about 12 to 14 inches high. And there must have been 30 to 35 devotees, maybe 40 devotees in a very small room. And basically, it was a very blissful moment. But what was actually amazing about this is what we saw all the devotees and children, because we had an Abhishek, we worshiped Srila Prabhupada with milk, we had an Artik ceremony, but then at the end of this debating ceremony, all the children, they came to offer obeisances and flowers to Srila Prabhupada. So I'm standing aside watching this, and some of the children, very young, are actually almost crying. They have so much love, so much dedication, so much faith and respect for Srila Prabhupada. And it's quite amazing because what I experience is as I'm watching all the devotees coming to Srila Prabhupada, offering obeisances, touching his feet, doing the natural respects and obeisances that devotees do at the end of an Abhishek, offering flowers to His Divine Grace, you can see that there's no toll gate between Srila Prabhupada and anyone. Prabhupada set up his teachings in such a way, he preached in such a way that anyone could approach him, anyone could hear him, anyone could benefit from his powerful transcendental presence. But somebody may object, well, that's nice, but people like Ishan Prabhu and yourself and some devotees, you personally met him, you physically met him. Yes, we admit we had that good fortune. But no one is prevented from approaching Srila Prabhupada by the proper process. When Srila Prabhupada was asked in July of 1975 by a reporter, what is going to happen to the movement when you die? Prabhupada's immediate reply, I shall never die. I shall live for my books and you will utilize. So those who are fortunate and intelligent and not consumed by some fanatical dogma or some ritualistic mechanical procedures will understand how to approach His divine grace. Just like Ishan Prabhu was describing, we have to open our hearts, we have to open our ears. And this is what Prabhupada is describing here. If we look at the purport in text number 5, it's very important. Get Krishna is mentioning, or the rishis of Naimisharanya, that because they had insulted Draupadi, others also died on account of their duration of life being decreased for touching the bunch of hair of Queen Draupadi. They're referring to what's called in the Mahabharata as Draupadi Haran, the attempt to disrobe Draupadi when Dushasana grabbed her by the hair and tried to basically humiliate her. And the story is that Krishna provided unlimited sari to protect her dignity and her chastity. And this is very important, very important. Last week, I stayed at the ashram of Chaitanya Nishinga Prabhu, and before I left, I went to his mother, his father, and his good wife, and I paid my pranams, my obeisances, and I asked them, if I've made any offenses against you, please forgive me and give me one blessing. He said, give me your blessing so someday, some lifetime, I may become a real devotee like Jayananda. As devotees, it's important to understand our position. I've related several times, Brahmananda one time asked Srila Prabhupada, it seems to be very difficult in this material world to be humble. Prabhupada's immediate reply was, it's not difficult. You just have to understand what you really are. What you really are is 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. When we start to comprehend that, then we can be on the path of humility, modesty, and the path of proper hearing. But if one thinks I'm such and such big devotee, I'm such and such senior devotee, I did this and I did that, people should give respect for this. No, that is not the proper way. Just like these children that were worshiping that Prabhupada deity, they were not thinking in terms, I've done this, I've done that. To them, it's pure love. Prabhupada is there, I pay my obeisances and I want to hear from him. This is the attitude we should develop. Very important, because we see how Srila Prabhupada in this purport is systematically, point by point, explaining all the fundamentals of Varnashram Dharma and what happens when women are not protected, when they're insulted, when they're abused or neglected. Prabhupada, many of you might be familiar with Prabhupada's interview with a reporter in Chicago when Prabhupada mentioned that a woman's brain was less than a man's brain. And they protested. There was so much protest in the local newspapers. That's because in the West especially, we've been victimized by the propaganda, Western Asuric propaganda. What is that? Thinking that everybody's equal. Well, spiritually, we're all equal. Men and women are spiritually equal. They're both spirit souls. But by the nature of the body, due to one's previous karma, it is different. It is not the same. Prabhupada one time was discussing this women liberation and this feminism movement. And Prabhupada told a reporter, I said, well, if they're all equal, why don't you become pregnant one year and then next year have your husband become pregnant? Of course, they laughed. I said, it is not the same. It is not the same. There's a certain role according to one's position, due to one's karma from the past life. But those who are ignorant or do not have sufficient knowledge from a bona fide acharya do not understand the law of karma. Why is one born as a man or as a woman, or as very intelligent or very dumb, or very beautiful or not so beautiful or ugly, or born in a rich family or not so rich family. There are reasons. It doesn't happen by chance. But if we become a devotee and dedicate our life to the Acharya, hearing the name of Krishna, then we're no longer under that karma coaster ride. Very important to understand. It says in the Brahma Samhita, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan. Once we're engaged in this path of bhakti, all of this past karma becomes nullified. Now we're under Krishna's protection. Very important point. Anyway, I'll turn it over to you, Ramagava, and Ishan Prabhu. You can make some more relevant comments. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
One thing that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu mentioned that caught my attention was talking about the fact of opening our heart to Srila Prabhupada. If we read Bhagavad Gita 434 purport, Srila Prabhupada says something very strong statement. He says that blind following is condemned. So what is the difference? What is this blind following that Srila Prabhupada is saying is condemned? Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is a science, and he wants us to be scientists. When I was in the university looking for knowledge, they had what they call scientific method. Scientific method means we have some philosophy or some assertion, and then we have a procedure for testing, and then we make a conclusion. We would do our experiments in the laboratory. Yes, oxygen and hydrogen you can produce water, H2O. So it's a science. So Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is a science, and that we should not accept any of it blindly. Blind following, Srila Prabhupada is condemning. But that means he wants us to have realization. That means he wants us to test the assertion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants us to test the assertion that our spiritual master is a pure devotee who has a living relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How do we test? So the way in which we make the test is given that there should be inquiry, submission, and service. And Srila Prabhupada's last line is that when we are sufficiently in relation to Srila Prabhupada, he will share his devotional feelings with us. And service means that then we will begin to engage with that feeling that we have got from Srila Prabhupada, with that feeling in our heart, and we will say, oh, this is very nice. I like it. When will I have the intelligence to remain fixed in this position? That is the beginning of our realization. Srila Prabhupada wants us to have that realization, not to think that, oh, I have my checklist of things, what do they call it? Prescribed devotional services, like the doctor prescribes a certain medicine. There's a prescription. Do this, do this, do this, and don't do that. You'll get cured. And so we have these prescribed activities of Krishna consciousness, but that's not enough. We have to learn how to saturate our devotional activities with this love of Krishna. So I heard one lecture by Srila Prabhupada. He said, where are you going to get this love? If you can get it at the store, go immediately and purchase. He was trying to make his disciples, ourselves, think, where can we get? Therefore we have. One should approach the self-realized soul and be submissive enough to imbibe from him the taste of devotion and engage in this way. So last sentence in 434, when the student is always submissive in this way, to imbibe the taste and ready to apply in rendering service, the reciprocation between inquiry of what is this science, does it really work? The reciprocation of this inquiry and the obtaining this knowledge, Srila Prabhupada, last word, becomes perfect. So he wants us to become perfect in this way. He wants us to make this experiment, which we cannot make unless we have a living relationship with a pure devotee who carries this in his heart, freely distributing. And not that we should be sentimental, member of this, member of that. That's what they do in the material world. And now I'm a member, now I'm initiated, now I'm this, now I'm a Nuga this, I'm a Nuga that. He wants us to have the living experience, which we can only have if we cultivate a living relationship with Krishna's pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
Ram Raghava Prabhu, any other questions or remarks
Hare,
from anyone?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, we're getting close to the end of the class. I'd like to share some of the questions. The first question is by Madhura Patkar. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but she asks, I have a question. Did Prabhupada allow to take bath in Yamuna or just sprinkle a few drops of Yamuna water?
I've already answered that in the chat. Yes, he did basically allow devotees to take bath in Ganges and Yamuna. I believe what she was referring to is what Prabhupada put restriction when devotees went to Radhakund. Because in the Upadeshamrita, there was description, if one goes to Radhakund and bathes in Radhakund, one will attain love of Godhead. There's many eulogies of the great transcendental, powerful position of Radhakund and bathing in Radhakund. So what happened is that devotees, the first time when they went there, they started to swim and play games in the Yamuna, in the Radhakund, like this was like a pool or a playground. When Prabhupada heard about it, he was upset. He says, no, this is not the way to treat Radhakund. One should pay obeisance to Radhakund. When you go there in the future, take a few drops of water from Radhakund, put it on your head. So that was Prabhupada's reaction when he heard devotees did not treat Radhakund respectfully. As far as Ganges and Yamuna, Prabhupada told devotees they could, take full bath in those places, but also treat it with respect. Even if one is not able to take a full bath, just putting a few drops of water from the Ganges of Yamuna is also the same purification. So,
thank you for that. And next question is by Shubhangi Mataji, Shubhangi Devi Dasi. She asks, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Jai Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhu, if someone has 107 beads in their japamala, can they still chant on the beads, or do they need to buy another set of beads?
Well, you can chant Hare Krishna under any circumstances, whether it's the 108 beads or 107. But 108 beads, there is a reason for that. There's 108 principal gopis. There's also 108 Upanishads. So 108 is a very special number. You can also add another bead to the japamala or restring the mala or buy another set. That's another thing you can do. I've never heard that it's forbidden to chant on 107 beads, but you can also add with some string, or else cut all the beads, cut all the strings and restring the entire set and get another bead to make it 108. From what you're describing, it might be easier if you just get another set of beads. That's what I humbly suggest.
Thank you for that. I know you've answered some of these questions, but for the benefit of those who are hearing and not reading the chats, that's why I'm asking the questions. The next question is by Karunya Devidasi, Karunya Mataji. She asks, I was unable to find Srila Prabhupada's reference regarding Laddu Gopal deity worship. Those who are already invited him at their home and worshipping him, how they should do his worship in accordance with and as per the standard set by Srila Prabhupada, set to worship Sri Radha Krishna together. So what to do now? Can we have Lord Ram photo frame? That's another question. Can we have Lord Rama photo frame in our altar?
Yes, you can have a Lord Rama frame on your altar. Laddu Gopal is a deity that's primarily worshipped in the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya in Gujarat. There's nothing wrong with worshipping. But one point about home altars, usually Prabhupada recommended that in order to worship the deities properly at home, one should be initiated, first initiation and second initiation. Because what you have is a situation where people will put deities on the shelf and not worship them properly or steadily, and there may be aparad involved. If you have deities already that you're worshiping, keep worshiping them. Ideally, one should become properly initiated according to Prabhupada's instruction, and eventually get second initiation to carry on the worship properly. As far as putting separate pictures, you can have pictures of the six Goswamis, Panchatattva, Lord Narasimha, and also Lord Ramachandra. You can do that. In South India, a lot of people put a deity of Balaji, the deity in Tirupati. So people worship him in their homes also. So then he says, are we allowed to chew tulsi leaves again? I'm unable to find any proper reference regarding this. My understanding is that usually, yes, you can. And also, again, I don't think that I've seen or heard of any reference from Srila Prabhupada regarding that. I can try to research the matter further and comment on this next week. So then Shubhangi Mataji also asked another question, I think. Can I give my previous beads to someone else as I've got my chanted beads by you? Or what should I do with my previous japa beads? Well, you can keep them if you like. Or if you want to give them to somebody else, yes, but then is that person going to chant regularly? That's the question you should ask. So you just have to make a personal decision. Many people keep two sets of beads in case one of them becomes broken or lost. I've seen that situation. If you want to give it to somebody else, you can, but it's a matter you have to decide how you want to proceed with that. Any other question, admonishments, or chastisement?
There are two more questions. One is by Chaitanya. He says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. What's the best to have deities of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai or have a deity of Srila Prabhupada?
Best to have both. Best to have both. It's a very inspiring to have a deity of Srila Prabhupada, because when you bring Prabhupada in your home, he is present in that deity, provided you get it properly installed. But basically, it's not a difficult situation, because Prabhupada advised the worship of Gaur-Nitai or Panchatattva, because it's easier to worship Gaur-Nitai than Radha Krishna. I mean, ideally, again, one should be properly initiated. One should get second initiation as well to worship the deity. But even if one doesn't have second initiation or first initiation, one can always get a picture of Srila Prabhupada and a Murti of Srila Prabhupada. I believe those are available at different websites like Krishna Store, Krishna Culture, and other places. So try to get both if you can. There's another question from Dr. Louise in Germany.
Yes, Louise Tamstorff, she's asking, please accept my obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please guide us how to qualify to become initiated through the Ritvik process by Srila Prabhupada in this community.
Basically, the process is pretty simple. Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada recommends that the process of initiation, people should do what's called Purascharya. Purascharya in Sanskrit means the required activities or necessary activities before initiation. What it is, Prabhupada refers to it as living in the temple for 6 months and chanting Hare Krishna, chanting 16 rounds, and engaging in a program, try to attend Mangalarti, take bath, put tilak, all of these activities. This was very prevalent during the manifested presence of Srila Prabhupada, where everybody physically lived in the temples. Nowadays, that people live in different homes and with husband, wives, family, business, children, everything. It's a more of a home-based situation. You can chant at home. You can do some worship at home, offer your food stuff, your bog at home. Do that for a certain period of time. And usually we recommend that people should get a recommendation from some member of HKS. There's many devotees that could recommend you. In Europe, that would be Vijay Pandit Prabhu. And then after 6 months, we usually request devotees to pass an exam. This is an exam that was submitted by Srila Prabhupada in 1969, a Bhakti Shastri exam. It's got about 10, 12 questions, very, very simple questions. And we make it open book so devotees can fill the questions, send it to us, send us a set of beads. We chant on the beads, we fix an initiation date, and then we move forward with the initiation. That's the general process. That's why we recommend that devotees who want to be officially initiated as Prabhupada's student and follower and disciple should follow the process that Prabhupada has given. We recommend they should try to chant for at least 6 months, follow the principle. With HKS, we recommend they try to come to our classes for 6 months or as regularly as they can during 6 months, and then they can get their recommendation. We will chant on the beads, choose a spiritual name for them, and they will become an initiated disciple of Prabhupada. As per Srila Prabhupada July 9th directive in Vrindavan, his last final order for initiation. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Prabhu. And now it's time for the Vancha Kalpa prayers to the devotees.
Thank you. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vancha Kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I want to thank everybody, Ram Raghava Prabhu, for being very patient with me despite my very bad sore throat, and in organizing this program, his good wife, Bhakti Nunes, and all the devotees who greatly helped with the program last weekend in New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey. Chaitanya Nishinga Prabhu, his good wife, Manini Radha Devi Dasi, his parents were actively engaged in helping with everything. I want to make a brief announcement. Srila Prabhupada's appearance day this year will be celebrated, I believe, on the 5th of September, 2026. We are going to compile a Vyas Puja book of offerings. You can send an email either to myself or Ram Raghava Prabhu or Vijay Pandit in Europe. Anyway, you can reach me at Yasoda1008@yahoo.com, YASODA1008@yahoo.com, and we'll make sure that your offerings get into the book. Even if it's just offering simple obeisances, you can take as long as you like or as short as you like. We're making this as an offering to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada for his Vyasa Puja. Janmashtami this year will be on Friday, the 4th of September. I might be in Edison, New Jersey at that time. The last date for sending your offerings will be the 31st of August, the last day in August. Venkat Bhatta Prabhu will help to compile this Vyasa Puja book. So we humbly request all of you, try to send some offerings and let us see how we can glorify His Divine Grace. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna